Then the final component of the direct cost is a category called co-employment risk. So co-employment risk makes up about $3,000 annually of your total overhead cost, or just under 2% or 2 cents on the dollar of everything that you spend to Insperity.
Okay.
Okay. Now, co-employment risk is an allocation that we built into our model to cover the various risks that we take over in our partnerships with our clients.
Okay.
Okay. There's really three main risks, and it's certainly not the only risk that we have, but the three main risks that we have in our partnership are broken out like this. And I'll start with sort of the least risk and work my way up to the highest risk that we have. So the least risk we have has to do with workers' compensation risk. Okay? Workers' compensation risk is low to us because, like you and many of our other customers, you have an office environment where the potential of having a catastrophic injury on the job is very, very small. The reason that that risk comes into play is because of the manner in which we handle our workers' comp program. So if you're familiar with how insurance works, there's really two types of insurances that are out there. There's fully insured plans, and then there are plans that operate like a self-insured plan.
Okay.
So are you familiar with those types of plans?
I am, yeah, but I'm more familiar with fully insured. So maybe you could help me understand the self-insured kind of.
So as you know, under a fully insured plan, the insurance carrier sets a premium. You pay the premium. If a claim is filed, that claim is not passed back over to you to pay. It is paid by the plan sponsor, which in this case would be the vendor, the carrier.
Okay.
So they are responsible, and they carry all of the risk for paying the claims.
Okay.
So under a self-insured plan is a little bit different there. Okay. On a self-insured plan, which is how we operate our workers' comp program, we take over that risk in paying the claims.
All right.
So if we charge you $50,000, but then there's a claim that comes in that's $200,000,
right,
that's going to be on us, and that's going to be our liability and responsibility to pay, not on yours.
Okay, so if a $200,000 claim shows up, you're not going to come send me a supplemental bill to cover that excess over the amount of my allocation.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right, great.
So that's the lowest risk that we have, generally because we have probably over 90% of our worksite employees that work in an office environment where the chances of getting injured are very, very small. Okay. There is some risk there. We do account for that in that co-employment risk, but it's a small risk.
Okay.
The second risk that I want to talk about has to do with employment-related risk. So when a client signs up with Insperity, we actually take over the responsibility for being the employer of record, and we are assigned the employer of record status in the states and the federal government eyes. Okay. So with the status of being the employer, you do take over certain risk. Okay. So if there is a wage claim, if there is an EEO type of claim, if there is some type of financial default that's out there, all of those types of risk fall on our shoulders, and we have to account for that.
So that makes sense to me. I'm a little curious though, because we talked earlier about EPLI, and now you kind of talk about the employment risk associated with co-risk. Right. Is there any kind of double dipping there? It seems like maybe I'm being charged in two places for the same thing. Can you help me understand the difference between this and what EPLI would cover?
Sure, no problem. So the EPLI is really there as an insurance to protect your interests. Okay. So if there is a claim or liability out there, that policy would kick in to protect your assets. Okay.
So in the wrongful termination or something like that.
That's right. So the co-employment risk is there to protect Insperity's risk and our liabilities and how we manage those areas. Now there could be some overlap. There could be a potential claim that you get brought into an EPLI suit. We will most likely get brought into that EPLI suit. Our coverage will protect Insperity. Your EPLI policy will protect your company.
Okay, and is there any kind of type of claim that wouldn't be covered under EPLI that is covered under co-risk?
Yeah, certainly. There's wage claims that are out there that happen. So there could be.
What do you mean by a wage claim?
There could be a class action lawsuit, for instance, we've had to get involved in the past where a particular client was not paying overtime correctly. So that went and got, there were several parties in the suit that said that they were not paid correctly in terms of overtime. They filed a class action lawsuit against the client, and Insperity. Now, we had no idea that that was even taking place.
Okay.
We knew that the hours and time were being sent in to us. We were processing those as is, and we were paying those employees just like we were supposed to pay them.
Right.
But unfortunately, the information that we were receiving was not correct.
Okay.
And so that actually turned into a type of class action lawsuit that we had to deal with.
And
again,
that would
that's
be covered under something like
yeah,
this.
that's the potential risk that's out there.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's okay. That's
Yep.
good.
And then there's some financial risk from being the employer of record as well, because if payroll is due on a Friday and a client calls us on a Wednesday and said, I don't have the money to pay for the payroll, those are our employees. We have to make sure that they get paid on time. We have to make sure their taxes are paid, their benefits are paid, their workers' comp coverage is in effect. All of that, whether or not we get one penny from that customer ever again, we have to make sure that those expenses and those benefits are covered.
All right. So that would be, obviously then co-risk would offset some of that exposure.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
That makes sense.
Really, the co-risk is there for the what-if events that take place.
Right.
What if a high workers' comp claim hits? What if there's a class action lawsuit? What if a client defaults in a payroll?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And the final thing actually has to do, which the largest risk that we have to do is medical. Okay. So what if there is a high medical event that takes place? Okay. The medical side of it is certainly by far the largest exposure that we take over, because like workers' compensation, we do self-insure that part of our service as well.
All right.
Okay. So anyone and everyone has the possibility of having a catastrophic type of illness or condition that could cause the medical claims to skyrocket.
Right.
Okay. It could be a cancer. It could be a premature baby situation. It could be some type of organ transplant. Those are all very, very high cost events that take place.
Right.
That's not going to be covered in the medical allocations that
yeah.
we charge our customers.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, co-employment risk is there for that what-if type of event that happens from time to time. And again, we built this into your model just like we have all of our other customers.
So question I have for you then, based on experience and how obviously my organization's doing within all these, is co-risk something that you adjust annually or does it get adjusted? Help me understand how co-risk is managed from the price point perspective.
Yeah, each year you go through the review process, and during the review process we do basically a risk assessment on your account. So we look at areas such as workers' comp, such as EPLI, such as benefits and those types of things to see how your risk profile is doing. Do we have high claims that might suggest that we might need to adjust that? Are there low claims or no risk involved in your account where there's a possibility that we might adjust it the other way and come down?
Okay.
Yeah, all of that review is done typically during your annual assessment, and any change to that certainly would be quantified when we have that renewal meeting with you guys several months prior to your renewal.
All right, that's good.